Hey guys, what's going on? It's your old pal CHH here again. It seems like you guys seem to enjoy Friday the 13th content. Well, I've got something really cool. A buddy of mine sent me this really cool note, and it has to do with, these Friday the 13th Deluxe Edition DVDs, which I'm excited to talk about. But let me read this note if you don't mind. CHH, thanks for all the quality entertainment and content. Glad these slips are going to a good home. More on that in a second. Keep up the great work, Daniel. And Daniel shared a note on the other side. Let me give you guys the context real quick. So today we're going to be talking about the classic Friday the 13th Deluxe Edition Paramount DVDs. Now, these were very vital upon the releasing of these in the late 2000s, because at this time, this was the first time Friday the 13th fans were able to get these extremely nice releases with great special features, legendary special features. As a matter of fact, I think this could be the best actual collection of movies from a franchise put out at that time specifically. It was unprecedented. I got a lot of those special edition DVDs. We're going to look at each one and see the artwork that it has. And I didn't know that these slipcovers were a cool thing. I thought they were just things you got rid of. I was that ignorant at the time. So I threw away mine, and my buddy sent me some to kind of help out with some of the releases that I have. And here's why he sent them. Brief history on the discovery of these slips. While browsing a local record shop, which I think you dig, called Reanimated Records, I came across a copy of the Friday the 13th Ultimate Collection set of the Paramount tapes in a collectible tin lunchbox, as opposed to the set with the small mask. I think this was an FYE exclusive. On second hand, the contents were in pretty good shape, but came with interesting extras. One was a copy of His Name Was Jason on DVD, which we did a retrospective on. And crazily enough, all those lenticular slips, none of those that were advertised on the product. Being that I missed some when picking up those deluxe back in '09, this was a godsend. Like an unexpected mystery box I didn't know I'd found. I'm glad to have filled in the gap for you on some of these. So, of course, I threw away the lenticular slips on a lot of those because I was stupid. And a couple of them I bought used, so they didn't have the lenticular slips to begin with. So, I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to do a video and talk about the classic, legendary Paramount DVDs, the collector's editions. Now, let's start at the front, because this was in fact the one that I bought first, and that is the Friday the 13th Paramount Uncut Original, new unrated edition, mastered in high definition 5.1 surround mix, and all new special features. Now, the features on these, when I got into horror, right at the time these came out, they were a year or so out, so I could still get a lot of these with the slips. Some of them I couldn't, but I remember this being incredible. Looking on the back and seeing the great images takes me right back to the late 2000s. The deluxe DVDs were so cool. Now, before this, of course, there was, the Crystal Lake Memories set and things like that. Or the Crystal Lake to Manhattan set. And then those regular DVDs. But, they all went with this uniform artwork, which I was really bummed at the time because I learned how cool the original poster art was for a lot of these movies. But the uniformity of these, it's so hard to hate now. And Paramount had this thing of not really being true to the movies when it came to the artwork and making it look like the movie. But here's the classic Part 1 with a cool lenticular slip. This one I'm fortunate to have the slip for now. The next one I bought was actually Part 7. Now I'm going to go through these in the order that I remember buying them, which I think is going to be pretty interesting when you see the order I bought these. But I remember this. The next one I bought was Part 7, and luckily Daniel had the slip for this one. Now, Part 7 actually features relatively, respectable art in terms of what it looks like with the movie. Some of these are hysterical, and I love them. But Part 7 was very early in the series of me watching these films. I watched these completely out of order. But with Part 7, this made me fall in love with the series, hands down. When I saw Part 7, I said, holy crap, this is what I'm talking about. And then that famous shot, I was very familiar with the shot because this was the shot of Jason on the cover of the Nintendo video game, which I played a lot and loved it. So, the Part 7 release is great, and there is a special feature on here I want you all to go rewatch. If you go to the special feature section on this, you will see a guy who has history with telekinesis, or he's some kind of doctor that talks about telekinesis, and they're treating it like a legit thing. I'm not making fun of that. I'm just saying I find that incredibly interesting and fun to see. So go watch, let's see what it's called. Mind Over Matter, The Truth About Telekinesis. These are all new features that they put on here, and I'm telling you, Mind Over Matter, The Truth, it's so captivating to me because it's a doctor really talking about what telekinesis is. But this was one that really made me decide, okay, this is what I'm talking about. The next one I ended up getting was in fact Jason Lives. Now, why am I buying these out of order, you might ask? Well, because the only place I knew to find them at this point was FYE. Maybe Walmart had these when they were coming out, but by this point, early 2010, I couldn't find them at Walmart or anything anymore, so I had to go to FYE to get this. And I remember buying this one and throwing the slip away like an idiot. Maybe one day I'll get the slip for this one, but this is part 6. Now, this is one of my all-time favorite covers for the deluxe DVDs. Why? Because if you look at the cover of this, first of all, Jason has a zip-up hoodie on. There's the hoodie part, there's the zipper, you can see the space in it, and he's got the Part 5 mask on. That is the Part 5 mask. Look at it. Plain as day, that is the Part 5 mask. And as a matter of fact, look at the Jason behind here, the mask behind there. That is a perfect representation. You can see the high blue chevron of the Part 5 mask. Why and how did that happen? I don't know, and I used to have a problem with it. Now I love how Paramount would just do silly stuff for their artwork. Look at what they did for the 1 through 8 Blu-ray sets that came out last year, year before last, after they remastered the first 4. It's all Part 7 art with one little Part 2 art on there. It's funny. I love it. So this is hysterical to me. And as a matter of fact, I think if you look at the Part 6 DVD before this one, the backside shows Roy Burns on the back. Great special features. The special features on these were just to die for. I loved them. The next one I got was, in fact, Friday the 13th Part 2. Now, this is the one that I was the most nervous to watch, really, because I was like, okay, I knew at this point that Part 3 is where Jason gets the hockey mask from watching James Rolfe Angry Video Game Nerd videos and stuff like that. So Part 2 I was really excited to see. Now, this one has the coolest special features out of anything. But here's the lenticular slip that my buddy was able to hook me up with. So glad to have that. Now, what's great about this is inside Crystal Lake Memories. They finally used this. They used this to kind of showcase the book Crystal Lake Memories, which should be in everybody's collection. The Crystal Lake Memories book is incredible. Peter Bracke talks about the book, the making of the book, and there's also Friday's Legacy Horror Conventions, and it is incredible. They show a Scarefest panel with Warrington, with Ari, with Kane Hodder, and C.J. Graham. And it is so fun to watch because it's from 2004 now. It's so vintage. So the special features on Part 2 are incredible, and they've been ported over time and time again. So odds are if you own Part 2 on Blu-ray anything, you'll have it. Very similar to Part 1's artwork, but I really love it. Next one I got was, in fact, Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, which I gotta be honest, I really like the artwork that they did for this. I thought this looked really good. Again, you kind of got that high chevron look like it's a Part 5 mask. Maybe they just use that image for a lot of these. If I look back, as you can see, there's Part 5 on the TV right there. And there's a specific reason I put Part 5 on the TV, and I'll let you guys know why when we get to it. The Part 8 one, great special features on here. The New York Has a New Problem, Making a Friday the 13th Part 8, was a documentary I would watch over and over again. And a lot of times, guys, if I'm feeling Friday the 13th, like I'm in a mood for it, I'll put these DVDs in, or I'll put in some form of them and just go watch the mini documentaries that are made for a lot of these. They're so fun to revisit over and over again. They make you feel at ease, they make you feel very calm, and they make you feel nostalgic. For DVD, the releases of these DVDs, they're so fun to revisit. And I have so much loving memories of watching this DVD for the first time and falling in love with this movie, and even saying to myself in my head, I really like this movie, but I don't know if I can say it because I feel a lot of people are probably going to trash this movie. Fast forward years later, now Jason Takes Manhattan has such a lovely fan base, and I'm so proud to be a part of that fan base for Jason Takes Manhattan. And I threw the slip away for this one like an idiot. Next up, we actually have Friday the 13th Part 3. Now, thank you to Daniel, of course, for reacquainting me with a slip for Part 3. Part 3 was one that came with the 3D glasses. This was a big deal because I watched it. If you've listened to me on live streams or my podcast or whatever, I've told the story about my brother, you know, getting drunk while watching this on 3D in our house and getting very sick, and we had to stop the movie and start it over. But this one got me super excited because when it came with 3D glasses, now this was a new thing to me at the time. Around 2010, I didn't know about many movies that you could buy that you could watch 3D at the house. Now we know how sick it makes us, but at the time, I remember being mega excited to watch this on 3D at home. I thought it was going to be incredible, and for a few seconds, it actually is pretty fun, but then it really sets in how painful it is. But with all that being said, guys, I think that this Part 3 DVD is something everybody should keep in their collection because I don't know about you guys, but the nostalgia I have for these releases this is the birth of my love for this franchise. These DVDs truly made me, how could you not fall in love with the franchise with the releases like these? I mean, they really sucked you in and made you feel like everyone was special. Every release got a special treatment, and it got a special release, and it made everything feel equal and just as important, which I think is great. Part 3 when I got it, and I fell in love with it, and I love it, and the second I heard the disco theme, I knew I was hearing greatness. So the next one I got, guys, is Friday the 13th Part 5, and I'll never forget going to FIA. I didn't have much money left in from my paycheck. I was paying something off at the time, and I was pretty low on funds. And my brother even said he would have spotted me the difference to get this release, but they had a used version of Part 5 at the time, the previous DVD release, this one. And I remember they had the deluxe version, DVD version, and this one. Now, obviously, I own the deluxe version of Part 5 in many numerous ways, and I'll show you how in a second. Which makes me want to show, I'm going to show you guys one of my favorite releases ever for Friday the 13th, parts 1 through 8. My brother was like, hey, I'll spot you the difference to get you the nicer one, and I just didn't want to do that, so I was like, it's okay, I'll get the old one, it's used, and I can get it for $9. So I don't own the individual DVD of the deluxe DVD by itself, individually, so this is my Part 5 that I have. I ended up getting the previous one. So, you know, that's why I don't own it. Granted, I still like this release. I like the art for the previous DVD runs, and they're fun. So, and as you can see, look, there it is. I'm not lying. You see, that's the used sticker. That's used Friday the 13th. There you go. This is an authentic tale, I'm telling you guys. So that's why I own this. At the time, I couldn't afford to get the deluxe version. I was fresh out of high school. I didn't have any money. And finally, the last one I got was the final chapter. Of course, I threw the slip away for this one too. Now this one looks like a mix between 4 and 5 on the mask. Obviously they got the famous cut in there, and they did something similar to the original poster, but the high chevrons, but they're in red. Now the cool thing about Part 4 was, I'll never forget, I started to become friendly with the guy that worked at FYE, and he was a big horror fan, and I remember grabbing the final chapter's deluxe DVD. At this point, I knew I wanted to get the deluxe version of Part 4 because I had fallen in love with the special features on these more than anything. And I was bummed out that the Part 5 didn't have any. So I knew I was going to get the deluxe version of Part 4. And I remember when I was checking out, he was like, what other ones do you need after this? I said, that's it. And of course, I knew I needed to get Jason Goes to Hell and things like that. But I knew that this was the last Paramount one I needed. And he told me, he goes, buckle up, you're about to watch the best one. I was so excited. That 30-minute ride back from the mall, I could not wait to get home to watch the final chapter. And of course I fell in love with it. This is just a classic. So that finished off me owning the Paramount Friday the 13th films. As you can see, you know, I have all those individuals except Part 5. I need to go to a used DVD shop and just try to find the individual release of Part 5 to finish it off. But as luck would have it, I would eventually get Part 5, the deluxe version DVD, not long after that. At this time, I had met my now wife, Sydney, and we were going through these movies on these DVDs, and we were loving it. I was watching these movies religiously all the time, just memorizing them chapter and verse, and, you know, I had a great time. And I'll never forget, this was before I was keeping up with physical media releases. I didn't know about that sort of thing. It wasn't something I kept track of. So I remember going to Best Buy one day with my wife and, or my girl, Sydney at the time. Sydney, we went to Best Buy. Lo and behold, I look on the shelf and I saw this. Friday the 13th, The Collection. And I was like, this looks like those DVD releases that I had. What is this? This is really cool. And I don't remember what the price was on this. I know it wasn't horrible, but I remember being really excited and I wanted to own this above anything else. So I remember my wife was like, Christian, you don't need that though. And this is when the collector kicked into me. I said, I need that. So I got it, and sure enough, these were a box set of these deluxe version DVDs. And I remember opening it up, and the first one I popped in was part 5, because this was the deluxe version DVD. What I love about this is it gives you facts, fun facts, weapons used, kill counts, and things like that on these. It is really, really cool. Look at that. Body counts. There's 21 dead bodies in Jason Takes Manhattan. There's 16 dead bodies in Jason, The New Blood. 18 in part 6. 21 bodies in part 5. 14 in part 4. 12 in part 3. 10 in part... yeah. So the body counts kept getting higher and higher. So this is how I eventually was able to own the 5th movie on deluxe DVD. So guys, that was a nostalgic look back at the classic Paramount Deluxe Edition Friday the 13th DVDs. I think most collectors not only have these, but kept these as some sort of a momentum to a time for you could be very different. Maybe you had been a Friday the 13th fan much, much longer than me and grew up with these films, and this was so exciting because you knew that you were going to get special features and learn about these movies. For me, I can't think of a better way to be acclimated with the franchise in a way that welcomed me in more than anything. I felt like, you know, I wasn't a chump for watching these movies for the first time on these deluxe versions. It made me feel like I was welcomed into the franchise, and I could learn about the franchise through those amazingly binge-worthy, watch them 1,000 times over documentaries and special features. So, guys, I hope you have those in your collections, and I'd love to hear your personal stories on the Deluxe Edition Friday the 13th DVDs. They're classic, and I think when I look at people's collections on their walls, I typically always see them, and I think a lot of us can't get rid of them. They're a part of our love for the franchise. They're a part of our collections and probably always will be. So guys, thank you for watching this video. Like I said, if you like Friday the 13th, I've got more coming with a lot of physical media reviews coming too. But let me know what your favorite Deluxe Edition DVD release is, your story, all that. Take care, guys. Huge, giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind-the-scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.